Hello and welcome to this episode of Math with Martinez. In today's video, in our unit on expressions, factoring, and equations with rational exponents, we are going to be determining the quotient of a polynomial by long division first, and then in our next episode, we'll be looking at synthetic division. This is our second skill in this unit. So let's go ahead and begin by first just kind of reminding ourselves what is meant by finding the quotient. Well, remember, the quotient is just the result of division. And this little page right here is going to be a nice look back, a little tutorial that you can see with all the little steps delineated for you. But I'm going to go ahead and jump forward to these exercises as a place to begin. So what do we do when we are dividing? Well, remember that really dividing is just the opposite of multiplication. And when we worked with polynomials previously, we would often hear this word factoring, right? We would hear this word factoring. And what does factoring really mean? Factoring really just means to figure out the two different things that multiply together. Each of those are called a factor, and together they give you what is called the product. So if we're working in reverse order, factoring is just working in that reverse order. It's that we are given the product and we might know one of our factors and we need to find the other, or maybe we're just given the product and we want to figure out what multiplies together to give us that product. So let's say that we have, like we do in example number 1 here, we saw that it's really nice to use this box method to multiply two binomials together in order to find their product. But we can actually use this box to kind of work in the reverse order as well. So let's say that I have, like it shows us here, my numerator, which I'm going to highlight in blue. That's what's inside of my box. That's the product. That's the result. And so what we have here is x squared and negative 84. And right here in the center, what I'd like us to know is that these two things, when we combine them together, would give us 8x. And we know that one of the factors, one of the things that is multiplying is our x and our negative 6, x minus 6. And what we're trying to find is the answer. We're trying to figure out, what does this equal? What does this equal? What is the other factor? What is the other factor going to be right here that gives us that result? What's going to be that other factor that we're looking to see going right here? What's going to be that other factor? Okay, well, let's think about it. What would have to go here so that it multiplies with x to give us x squared? Well, obviously, there's only one choice. That would have to be x. And then we want to figure out, okay, well, how do we get that negative 84? What would we multiply with negative 6 to give us a negative 84? Well, the number that fits into this little top part is a negative 14. Because the product of positive 14. I want it to be positive because positive and negative together when multiplied is negative. Now check this out. This is really cool. Right here would be 14x multiplying the 14 and the x, and multiplying the x and the negative 6. And when you take and combine those together, that is in fact 8x. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is our factor. That is the other factor. We were able to factor this to find our quotient, just like it said in those directions. So that's one method that we can take. But there are other methods, and so I'm going to show you those algorithms now. Another way that we can do this is using long division, and that's what we're going to do here in example 3 and 4. So let's use long division to go ahead and figure out our quotient. I just want to highlight that to finish it off. Okay, so let's go about doing that now. I've got my value that I'm dividing. This is, if you were to think about it up here at the top, this is the result of multiplying two things together. And we're trying to figure out what are those two things that give us this. We only know one of them, so we'll divide to find the other. And here's what we're going to divide by. And so we're going to divide by that n plus 5. It's going to divide into n squared plus 11n plus 25. So my n minus 5 is my divisor. This is my dividend. And what I'm trying to find is my quotient that will be up here on top. So let's do it. Like it says on our previous page, step number 1 is to try and figure out what is missing. What is missing? What do I need to multiply n by to get n squared? Well, that's just n. Then step number 2 is to go ahead and multiply. I'm going to multiply n times n, and that is n squared. N also times 5, and that goes just below. N times 5 is 5n. So there we have it. There we have it. Now, like we do with long division back in the old days as well, when we just had numbers that we were working to divide, not polynomials, but step number 3 now is to go ahead and subtract. I like to show this in red because I don't want to forget to subtract both of those terms. The squared terms cancel, but 11n's minus 5n's is going to give me 6n. And step number 4 is to go ahead and bring down that next term. And then it starts all over again. What is missing? What would I want to multiply by to get n squared? N times what to get 6n? Well, that's just a 6, because 6 times n is 6n. And then I must multiply 6 by the other part of my divisor, which is 5. 6 times 5 is 30. Now we're moving on to step number 3, which is to subtract. The 6n's cancel out. They're a 0 pair. 25 minus 30 is a negative 5. And that right there is my remainder. So what do we do with our remainders? Our remainders are going to be expressed as a fraction that we either add or subtract to at the end of our quotient. So because this is negative, I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to subtract that 5, and it's going to be over what we're dividing by. 5 over what we're dividing by. Again, it was minus, it was minus because I am subtracting. It's a negative 5, so I'll put minus. And then what we're dividing by, it's out of what we're dividing by. So let's do another one. Again, we're going to use long division here. So what we're dividing by, our divisor is on the outside, our dividend is on the inside, and we'll be looking for our quotient. It will be what is in that area above that division box. So we start by asking ourselves, what is missing? What is missing? Y times what to get y squared? Well, it's just going to be a y. Now go ahead and distribute or multiply that y by your entire divisor. So that would be y squared minus 7y. Then subtract. Subtract both of those terms. The first terms cancel out. And then -3 minus a -7 minus a negative is going to make it addition. So it will be 4. 4y. Bring down that next term and start all over again. What's missing? What would I want to multiply y by to get 4y? Well, that's just going to be a 4. Multiply that 4 by everything that is all the terms that are in your little divisor there. So 4 times y is 4y, and 4 times -7 is a -28. I'm subtracting both of those terms. The 4y's, they cancel out, and then it's a -20 minus a -28. So that's really adding, so we'll have 8 as our remainder. So that 8 is positive. So in this case, I'm going to add 8 over what we were dividing by, which was y minus 7. And there you go. That is our final answer. Just to clarify here, we'll go ahead and put our answers at the bottom. So it's really neat and easy to find. There is our first quotient and our second. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is polynomial long division. The next two examples, we're going to use synthetic division, so stay tuned for that.